Hey, what's up everybody? Dan Cromar from Conversion Giant here. Video's gonna be a little bit different today. Usually we're giving you marketing tips or going over some news, but we're gonna do it a little bit differently today. We're gonna take a look at something that's happening in the marketing world right now and give a little insight on it. I'm talking about third-party cookies. Now, if you've been following marketing news over the last few months, this shouldn't be a surprise to you. These have been in the news quite a bit with Apple and Google and other companies making pushes to move away towards third-party cookies. But I wanted to look into that a bit more. What are third-party cookies? Why is there concern about them? And where is the marketing world headed with regards to them? Now, because this is a bit more of a nuanced issue, there's likely to be a bit more commentary in this video. So I did just want to say that any opinions that I share here are my opinions. They are not the opinions of anybody else at Conversion Giant. They're not necessarily not the opinions of anybody else at Conversion Giant, but I just don't want to speak for anybody other than myself. So with that out of the way, let's go have some cookies. So the first thing we need to talk about is what exactly are third-party cookies and what do they do? Before we can talk about that though, we need to talk about what are cookies in general. Cookies are bits of information that a website will store on your browser when you visit it. What that information is used for really depends on what type of cookie it is. There are primarily two types of cookies. There are third-party cookies and first-party cookies. Now, this video is about third-party cookies, but I do want to talk real quick about what first-party cookies are, just so you can understand what third-party cookies are not. So first-party cookies are cookies created by the owner of a domain and then stored on your browser when you visit that domain. This allows that site to track your behavior across the site and then remember you for later so that they can customize your experience on that website. This allows you to do things like automatically log into a website that you visited before or get articles recommended to you based on articles you've read in the past. Now, to be clear, first-party cookies are not going anywhere, at least not right now. The concern is over third-party cookies. Third-party cookies are a little bit different. These cookies are stored on your browser through a code created by somebody other than the owner of the domain that you're visiting. It's usually placed on that domain through something like an ad network, and then that same code is placed across several other domains as well. And then that cookie that is stored on your browser can now be accessed on any domain where that same code is present. This allows the original creator of the code to then track their users across multiple domains instead of just across their own domain, which is the case for first-party cookies. The purpose of this usually is advertising. This is typically how advertisers create targeted ad campaigns across multiple domains. So what are the concerns that people have about third-party cookies? It really falls into two categories. The first has to do with security. Now, to be clear, third-party cookies themselves aren't really harmful or dangerous. There are plenty of other problems people have with them, but we'll get to that in a minute. No, the security threat comes from what could happen if someone with actual malicious intent were to either steal the information that is collected by third-party cookies or hijack the cookies themselves. And that's not just speculation. A couple years ago, there was a case where there was a Trojan found on Android devices that was able to hijack certain cookies and use them to access people's social media accounts. Now, that problem was discovered and fixed before it could affect too many people, but it definitely shows a vulnerability. And as for data breaches, if you look over the past decade or so, there have been multiple large-scale and very high-profile data breaches in which people's data have been stolen by hackers breaking in to company databases. And whether or not that data came from third-party cookies, the bottom line is that the general public just doesn't really trust anyone to properly safeguard their data, whatever their reason is for wanting to have it. The other concerns people have about third-party cookies have to do with privacy, and these are really the core of the issue. Simply put, people don't like the idea of invisible trackers following them around the internet and recording what they do, whether that information is used for something harmful or if it's used for something benign like advertising. And transparency plays a pretty large role in this as well. Right now, most browsers have a lot of ways to detect and remove third-party cookies. They make it pretty easy. Some of them block them entirely. But in the past, that wasn't the case. If you weren't someone who was readily familiar with the practice of using third-party cookies, discovering that you had some tracking you around the internet could be rather jarring. Plus, there's the fact that until recently, there wasn't a whole lot you could do to stop being tracked by third-party cookies. For years, most sites or services didn't even give you the option to opt out, or if they did, they would automatically opt you in, and you'd have to figure out for yourself how to opt out. Now, that has changed recently, quite a bit actually, and we're going to talk about that in the next section, but over the years, all of these things have combined to make the practice of using third-party cookies seem kind of secretive and maybe even a little creepy. Now, I've been in marketing for 10 years, and I'm pretty familiar with how these cookies work and what they do, so I don't really see it that way. But it's really not hard to see how somebody else could. And honestly, it's fair. So, where does the marketing world go from here with regards to third-party cookies? Well, nowhere. Third-party cookies will be going away, but don't worry, not overnight. This is going to take quite a bit of time. But the ball is certainly rolling. Apple already dealt a huge blow to third-party data tracking with their iOS 14.5 update, which if you watch this channel at all, you know a lot about because we've talked about it many times. But basically, what they did was prompt users to opt in to third-party data tracking as opposed to opting them in by default and then forcing them to opt out. And as you can imagine, most users chose not to opt in. And Google on their end is already planning on moving away from third-party cookies by as early as 2023. So still a little bit of time there, but they are planning on phasing them out as soon as they have an alternative. And honestly, for most marketers, this really shouldn't come as a surprise. Third-party cookies have been on their way out for a while. Public perception of them has never really been great, and in places like the EU, there have been legal battles about third-party cookies going back to 2019, when certain practices were ruled illegal. So this has really been a long time coming. And honestly, is losing third-party cookies really the worst thing? Oh sure, if you're an advertiser who relies heavily on them for developing ad groups, this could seem like somewhat of a digital adpocalypse, but is it really? I mean, let's be honest with ourselves here. Third-party cookies have never really been perfect. Sure, they were an easy way to gather data, but they had a lot of holes too. They didn't track people, they were tracking devices. If multiple people were sharing a device, you had no way of knowing that. Also, they could be so easily removed now. Most people will at any given opportunity strip third-party cookies, so what good are they doing? One way or another, we were going to need a new solution anyway. And Google has already said they're working on some new solutions, but until then, there are still things marketers can do to build up data on their customers. You can rely on your first-party data. That is not going anywhere. First-party cookies are here to stay, at least for now. And there's all kinds of other ways to build data too, through contact lists or email lists. Or you can offer users incentives to fill out surveys so you can learn more about them, maybe with discounts or free items. But either way, you're just going to have to get used to a world without third-party cookies because one way or another, they are on their way out. All right, everybody, there it is. That is my take, my little mini rant on third-party cookies. Hopefully you found it informative. If you did, please leave this video a like. If you want to share your own thoughts on third-party cookies and the future of marketing, leave a comment down below and be sure to subscribe to Conversion Giant for great digital marketing content every week. I'm Dan Cromar. See you next time.
Hey, Peter here. Really quick, I hope you found this video useful. We just love helping advertisers. And in fact, here at Conversion Giant, we have several programs that uniquely cater towards e-commerce brands, lead gen, and software businesses. Down below in the description, there is a link to schedule a free 30-minute strategy session with me where we can talk about your business, your growth goals, and any challenges that you might be facing. Click down below, and I'll look forward to speaking with you soon.